Post-war Japan. A monster awakens. Post-war Japan was a nation in ruins. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki had left a deep scar on the Japanese psyche, and the country was struggling to rebuild. In the midst of this chaos, a new crisis emerged. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, a giant monster awoke. This monster was no ordinary creature. It was a product of the atomic bomb, mutated by the radiation and empowered by its destructive force. The monster emerged from the ocean and emerged on the shores of Japan, wreaking havoc wherever it went. The Japanese government was powerless to stop the monster. The military was still in shambles after the war, and no conventional weapon could penetrate the monster's thick hide. The people of Japan lived in fear, as the monster rampaged through their cities and countryside. In the midst of this despair, a group of scientists and engineers banded together to develop a new weapon, specifically designed to destroy the monster. The weapon was a powerful laser cannon, capable of generating enough heat to melt through the monster's hide. The scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, racing against time to complete the weapon before the monster reached Tokyo. Finally, after many setbacks, the weapon was ready. The scientists and engineers transported it to the outskirts of Tokyo and prepared to fire. The monster arrived in Tokyo shortly thereafter. It roared in defiance as it approached the city, its footsteps shaking the ground. The people of Tokyo fled in terror, but there was nowhere to run. The monster was upon them. The scientists and engineers fired the laser cannon. The beam of light struck the monster, and for a moment, it seemed to have no effect. But then, the monster's hide began to melt. The beam of light burned through its flesh, deeper and deeper. The monster roared in pain as it tried to escape. But it was too late. The laser beam had penetrated its body, and the monster exploded in a fiery ball of light. The people of Tokyo cheered as the monster was destroyed. The scientists and engineers were hailed as heroes. Japan had survived its greatest crisis since the war. The aftermath. In the aftermath of the monster's destruction, the Japanese government began to investigate its origins. Scientists discovered that the monster was a prehistoric creature that had been awakened by the radiation from the atomic bomb. The monster had been mutated by the radiation, giving it its immense size and power. The government also began to develop new weapons and technologies to defend against future monster attacks. They created a special task force, known as the Monster Defense Agency, to monitor for and respond to monster threats. The people of Japan were grateful that the monster had been destroyed, but they knew that they could not afford to be complacent. The monster was a reminder of the destructive power of nuclear weapons, and it was a warning that they must be careful not to repeat the mistakes of the past. A new threat. Years passed, and Japan began to recover from the war. The economy grew, and the people prospered. But the threat of monster attacks still loomed large. One day, the Monster Defense Agency received a distress signal from a remote island in the Pacific Ocean. A team of investigators was dispatched to investigate, but they never returned. The Japanese government sent a larger team to the island, and they made a shocking discovery. The island was home to a colony of giant monsters. The monsters were different from the one that had attacked Japan years ago, but they were just as dangerous. The Japanese government realized that they were facing a new and even more serious threat. The monsters on the island were multiplying rapidly, and they could soon pose a threat to the entire world. The Japanese government mobilized its military to prepare for an attack. But they knew that they would need help from the international community. They appealed to the United Nations for assistance, and the world's nations responded. A coalition of forces was assembled to attack the island and destroy the monsters. The attack was a success, but the monsters were not easily defeated. Many soldiers and civilians were killed in the fighting. In the end, the monsters were defeated, but the victory came at a great cost. The Japanese government was determined to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. They vowed to continue their research into monster defense and to cooperate with the international community to protect the world from these terrifying creatures. Conclusion: post-war Japan has faced many challenges, but the greatest challenge of all may be the threat of giant monster attacks. The Japanese government and people have learned to live with this threat, but they know that they must always be prepared for the worst. The story of post-war Japan is a story of resilience and hope. In the face of